You are here for Julia. I absolutely understand that. We are super excited to share Julia's message today. And Career Elevation is a dental-specific recruiting company. We are the host for this, and Julia is our speaker. So as everybody is getting filed in here, let me share a little bit about who she is and why she's here. Why are you guys listening to her today? So before we get dove in, I would like to take just a moment to introduce Julia as our speaker today. She is the owner and founder of Stellar Dental Solutions. She launched Stellar in 2021 with a clear mission to help dental practices streamline their billing processes and protect their revenue from being lost due to inaccuracies or uncertain adjustments. With a background in accounting and a master's degree in the field, she brings both technical expertise and a deep passion for helping practices get what they paid for, what they're rightfully earned. She's also a proud member of Dental Revenue Network, staying connected with like-minded professionals to stay on the leading edge of revenue cycle strategies in solutions in dentistry. So, Julia, we're super excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us, and I will turn this over to you.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and joining me. I really appreciate everyone here today, and it's my honor to be a speaker. If you don't mind, in the chat, go ahead and drop where you're from, what you're doing, what you're eating for lunch today, if it's your lunch hour. And then, like Wendy said, all of the questions we'll answer at the end. But if you have the questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat as well. So yes, I've been with Stellar Dental Solutions since 2021. And today's topic is one that hits home for about every dental practice I worked with. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. So I work with revenue issues that keep resurfacing if there is no real system in place. And hang in with me if you're just starting out in dentistry, you are in the right place. I am going to talk about how to stop plugging holes and instead create a system that runs smoother, lasts longer, and puts less stress on you and your team. But one thing I'm going to challenge you all today is this: whether you're a dental practice owner or a practice manager, if you really want for these 40 minutes to make a difference, you'll have to take ownership and take some action at the end of this webinar. So I will provide a couple of tools and resources that will help you guide your team and create some accountability as well. So stick with me to the end so I can help you start making some real progress tomorrow. And hey, if this webinar can encourage just one person to make the necessary change to break that cycle, I'll be super happy. And we know change is hard, right? And sometimes uncomfortable, but it's also necessary. And sometimes I think that if we would all accept it and embrace it, we would be in such a better place. Just FYI, I don't really have a message that will solve all of your problems, but I will give you some good pointers that will help you go back to your offices and implement those little adjustments. I hope you do it, and that's how you're going to start making that progress. And by the end of this webinar, like I said, you'll have 3 tools that will help you implement some changes. All right, let's call it out. We all know, right? Admin burnout is real. And it happens because we're constantly reacting instead of planning. Think about your week. How much of your day is spent fixing issues that you could have prevented? It looks like this. We get a denial, we scramble, we're missing information, and we're fishing for it in our clinical notes 2 years back from the date of service, and we're kind of constantly backpedaling, and it is super draining. We're keeping to work around the problem, but not really fixing the real issue. But we can't really afford to let that just get it done mindset become our culture. It really only works until it doesn't. And when it breaks, the financial damage is already done. And we know this firsthand because no practice usually reaches out to us when everything works, they're collecting what they're producing, and they have enough team members, right? That would be an ideal client, by the way. But offices that are reaching out really are the ones that need help because whatever systems they had in place did not work. The AR was piling up with no light at the end of the tunnel, or they didn't simply have enough team members. So here's some data mixed into the picture. Collection trends prove that practices only have a 20 to 30% chance, and some sources say 15 to 25% chance of collecting patient accounts once they've past due for more than 90 days. I don't really have statistics on insurance collection likelihood, but I would assume the percentage is higher than that, right? And according to the CAQH index report in 2024, healthcare industry, dental plus medical, spent about $90 billion on administrative tasks. Just think about the cost of our time we're putting into fix, resubmit, appeal, and chase that money. And sometimes I really wonder if we're spending more to get paid less. As a dental billing company, of course, we will fight for your $4.50. But is it really worth for your team? I don't really know. And the issue is that many of us are still working from a reactive perspective, like I said before. And I like to put this example, just like our patients, right? We take action when things are hurting, and we ask our patients not to do it. And for our admin teams, it looks like this. We're chasing. And when we talk about money chasing, we're dealing with three common issues. Number one is rejections. Number two is requests for more information. And number three is denial, which also may be a request for more information when we're talking about denial. It just may not be as obvious. And claims are rejected for various reasons, but most commonly for wrong patient information, subscriber information, inadequate insurance information entered, or missing information. With insurance requests, they can be sent for various reasons too. Sometimes insurance companies simply claim they didn't get any x-rays or clinical notes. And we all know that, right? And it's annoying. But sometimes information is not meeting their guidelines to pay that claim. And have you noticed that sometimes denials actually look so legit, but they should really be taken as an insurance request? So in short, denials typically fall into two main categories. Those that are legitimate denials, such as plan limitations or policy rules. Examples could be frequencies, like once per 6 months for cleaning, or services simply not covered under the patient's plan. Waiting periods that haven't been met or plan exclusions. These are usually the ones that really don't have a path for an appeal, and unless it was a processing error. But there are also denials that are actually more like insurance requests. And these may look like flat denials at first, but they should really be treated as a call for more information. And the wording, unfortunately, may not directly ask for documentation, but the denial reason kind of leaves a little bit of room for appeal, and if you know what I'm talking about. And common examples could include lack of medical necessity, insufficient documentation. And these are your opportunities to provide supporting documentation and get that claim reprocessed and potentially paid. But we all know, right? This takes hours. Think of an opportunity as a business owner or a manager. What could you do with this time? How about working on your business to grow it instead of working in it, for example? And a lot of times, these things are actually the ones that get ignored and pushed back because there's just too much going on in front of us. But wouldn't it be nice to avoid so many of these denials and rejections? Wouldn't it be nice to just work ahead of the game, not be backwards working? Much of this can actually be prevented, and I'll show you how soon, so just stick with me. We all know when there's so much going on and the system is not created to prevent something from happening again, guess what? It will keep happening. And It will require your time again and again. Your claim gets denied, or a patient balance goes unresolved, and suddenly your team may only be able to get done what's in front of them, like checking in or checking out patients. And most of the time, the solution is a temporary patch. Resubmit it, write it off, do it later. And hey, I get it. This mindset is understandable. We're juggling so many things, like 100 of things every day. But the issues, they do build up over time. And eventually, the wheels will start to come off and your revenue will start hurting. So today is about giving you some actionable steps. And it may be hard in the beginning, but in time, once you have the systems in place, those systems actually will reduce your stress. They will stop letting money slip through the cracks and you'll be able to breathe. And don't we all agree in dentistry? Sometimes it's about making constant little adjustments to stay ahead. No one's going to come and make those adjustments for you. So I'm going to empower you to be the one. All right. We just need someone at the front desk. I just wonder, do you guys hear this a lot? Drop in the chat if you do. Well, first of all, front desk is a furniture, but yes, I hear this a lot. And I'm not here to point fingers. I'm actually speaking with love because I do care. And the ones that hire us for their billing, I'm hearing, from those offices as well. They don't want to pay anyone with experience or invest in the admin department. But everything starts with the front team. The revenue cycle really starts with the information gathering from the patient and then transferring that information to the practice management software. And if that's not done correctly, the revenue cycle will struggle. And it may seem like we're talking kindergarten dental level here, but we see so many practices that fail in this stage, whether it's date of birth, address, name or insurance information entered wrong. That all affects claim processing. Just recently, actually, a large practice that we worked with had nearly about 21% of their claim issues due to eligibility, mostly terminated policies, and over 20% for inadequate documentation. So the claims were simply not paying. And this data we pulled from an AI software that scrubbed the EOBs and compiled that data together. But isn't that frustrating to constantly be going back to fix information, reaching out to patients, re-entering, resending? Just for example, take 5 terminations into consideration, and that could really amount close to $1,000 in lost hygiene revenue. And really, how do you keep track of all of the action items not to lose that money? It's a lot. And I bet keeping track sometimes it's really not keeping track, but it's important to understand that there are consequences for poor billing systems. And you have to decide first for yourself, are you willing to take that risk? It's okay to hire people with no experience. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you not to hire someone with no experience, but you have to train them. They need someone to teach them the right way. And if that is not done, guess what? You're exposing yourself to all of these risks. How does it work in dentistry? A simple example, right? We have Susie, who worked at this dental office for 20 years, and then she retired, and she trained Mary. Well, guess what? Mary doesn't know anything besides what Susie told her. And we don't even know if Susie showed Mary the right way. So you get the picture. And when we talk about hidden costs, it's your bottom line, your money and your business. If you're not collecting and your patients are not trusting you, they stop referring, that's huge. You're not growing, right? And then when we talk about compliance and legal risk, it's not just financial, it's your license. We've heard, many different people are talking about all of these consequences that dental offices are facing recently. Justin, who is one of the dental focused attorneys, he's been talking a lot about it. He just posted something recently today. Not only the doctors, but also the team members, they are reliable too. Improper billing or patterns of non-compliance will trigger audits. You will have penalties or even worse. And we see offices bring someone on quickly just to keep things moving, but without the right training or the systems in place, that short-term fix often leads to long-term problems that, start with neglected tasks. And those neglected tasks, unfortunately, they do snowball into cash flow problems. Let's bring up a few important tasks that every office needs to be on top of. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these tasks, but then later on, I will share some resources, that will have more tasks, but we'll go in detail a bit later. But make sure your team is not ignoring insurance requests, but is actually answering them by the end of the week as they come in. They're not piling up for weeks or months. Make sure they are checking rejections. Make sure they are not delaying the 30+ day AR follow-up. And then make sure you're not skipping your verifications. These may seem like little things, that can get skipped during a busy day, but they are a backbone of a healthy revenue cycle. They really should be on your task list. If you're not checking them off, are they being done? Yeah, did you know that many plans now actually have a 90-day filing limit? Just think about it. You are not only watching your largest and oldest claims nearing 1 year, but you're also watching your claims nearing 90 days. And, here at Stellar, how we do this is we go ahead and we filter for these specific insurances to make sure we don't miss any. These are the ones that have plans with 90-day filing limits, but I'm sure there are more, but these are very popular lately. You need a strategy. And I say this with love. Training may feel like a luxury when you're short-staffed, but I promise it costs so much less than cleaning up the mess later. If your admin team feels like it's in survival mode, it's really time to rethink how you're supporting them. You need to start somewhere. For example, you can invest just 2 hours at the end of the day, and you can do it once monthly, and that's a good start. And just keep in mind, the insurance world evolves. Requirements change, workflows. So you can't really expect your team to stay sharp without support. For a minimum, your team should have access to the latest coding, and of course, best administration practices books, such as CDT books, and then expert webinars for updates. Talking about expert webinars, a lot of these things are free. Like this webinar is free, but there's many more. And why just not take advantage? I know my friend Devon from DTech and then Leslie with Dental Classroom, they have a live session coming up where you can actually ask questions about insurance. And then Teresa Duncan has an all-day virtual insurance course on July 25th. Teresa's course is not free, but it's so good. You should send your team, and there's a $75 off code to use if you want. It's Stellar75, Stellar75. So take advantage. I'm always looking for new things to help us work smarter. And for so long, many things we have been doing were the right way to do things, and actually the only way to do things, right? But today, the process has evolved, and there's so much advantage for us to use new processes, new technology, and new automation tools. Surprisingly, though, many offices are still operating like it's 2005, right? With paper forms and manual tracking, no automation at all. I get it. Change can be so uncomfortable, but clinging to outdated systems will hold your team back. And this really can shave hours off your workload. It all adds up. With something like Vine, for example, you can prevent rejected claims from being on your aging report over 30. You can catch them sooner within a few days. You will have your rejected claim list, and then it will also show you the reason. Some of you may not know how to find your rejected claims, and you have no idea they exist. It's okay. You're here, so you'll be able to do your research. You can contact your clearinghouse, and they will point you in the right direction. But if you're using something like Vine, for example, When you go under sent claims, you have to click on rejected, and then you will filter for rejected. It will give you a whole list. It may be longer than you expected, but start working there. And if you have eCentral, the Dentrix claims, then you will just have to click on that red E button in the claim box, and it will take you to the web page where you can also then filter for rejected claims and your time frame. And when we talk about AI, it's a powerful tool, but you have to remember it's not a replacement for us dental folks. And I think many of us are just fearing it, but you have to understand that technology can really streamline and support your billing process, but it still takes a human to investigate and fix claim issues that aren't straightforward. It still takes a human to accurately enter and interpret data in the PMS, and then follow up on denials, missing information or stalled claims with critical thinking and persistence. So even the smartest system can't fully replace you. Your judgment, and context, or even just accountability that you as a trained team member have and bring to the office. So AI will help you work smarter, but it will not make you disappear. So I know I've been kind of talking about all these problems for about 20 minutes now, but let's dive into my favorite part and talk about healthy workflow and what it looks like. So in this section, I have tools to equip you going forward. And like I said, you'll have the download at the end. There will be a QR code. But a healthy workflow really gives your team direction and permission to do their job well. And it starts with SOPs. If you can explain in your own words, your own systems step by step, it's probably a sign that you need to map them out. And you may not be able to do that on your own, so you may have to, hire help for this, and that's okay. If we take an insurance coordinator position, for an example, just think about it. Does your team member know exactly what they're supposed to be doing daily, weekly, biweekly, monthly? And if your answer is no, this is the truth. They're probably kind of taking care of things as they come in. So let's talk about daily, weekly, biweekly, monthly checklists. And I love checklists because they really help us track what's getting done and what's getting missed. At Stellar, we do have our checklist, and this is really how we track what needs to be done for our clients and ensure nothing gets missed, so we can serve our clients in the most beneficial way. And I'm talking about such as insurance verifications, daily, weekly, hour follow-ups, audits, and things like that. I'm going to have some water because I honestly can't speak anymore. And that's okay. I'm a human. All right. So let's dive into the checklist of every insurance coordinator. This is just an example, okay? Your insurance coordinator's checklist may look different. And it may have more or less on their plate. They may not be responsible for some of the things here, or they may be responsible for more. But someone in your office should definitely be doing these things. So just look at this, think about it. Is there someone who is doing these things? Is there someone who enters new patient insurance into your patient management software? Or the patient sends you their insurance card and it gets stuck in a DocuCenter and nothing happens after that. So definitely important to review. Hopefully not. But the most common skip tasks we see are usually, offices are not running the procedures with no claims attached report, and then claims don't go out in time. Or maybe not running the claims to process report. Maybe the claim was created but then never sent, or secondary claims that were not sent. But like I said, don't worry. At the end of this webinar, I'll share this insurance coordinator checklist, and it will help you set some responsibilities within that position. If you don't have anything like that, or if you do, you can compare it to what you have and maybe some of the things you want to add. And Now let's take a look at this even further. When we talk about insurance verification, have you looked at your process to see if your current process works for your office? And insurance verification is a very broad term. Some offices just click the button, they check eligibility and they call it verified. Some offices do a full breakdown, and some offices will update their coverage tables and their plan information in the PMS. I'm going to share two common insurance verification processes in dental practices today, and so you can see how these processes will affect your patient experience and your bottom line. And by the way, these are real scenarios. So take a look. Scenario 1 is no eligibility checks at all. And scenario 2 is eligibility checks but no plan updates. I'm sorry, I need more water. All right, so let's talk about office number 1. In this office, the team actually doesn't check anything. They just assume that insurance hasn't changed, and if the patient doesn't say anything, they don't verify at all. They just deal with the insurance eligibility issues as they arise. And your office may fall into this category, or it may sound like a nightmare to you, but this office has multiple rejections, denied claims for inactive coverage. Hopefully they're reaching out to patients to get new insurance and resubmitting those claims. The office number 2, they actually check eligibility with something like Vine or eCentral, and then if they're eligible, they just leave it at that. They go by what's in their patient management software, what the insurance profile says about the plans. They don't update, and they're not cross-checking to the insurance information available online. And many offices, I would say most offices, will fall into this category. And if we think about this scenario, this office has multiple patient balances, right? Because of multiple issues. For example, the coverage table is no longer accurate, right? That can happen, percentages change. Or the plan is no longer a PPO plan, but now a DMO plan, and no payment can be issued. Or, for example, a plan changed from full coverage to preventative only. That would be terrible, but it happens all the time. Or the service category within that plan is no longer covered as before. And that's actually very popular with Medicare plans. Or the plan that may fall under a fee schedule, different fee schedule now. Let's say you had a direct contract, but it was dropped, and now your plan falls under one of the higher paying umbrella plans. And the coverage may be almost double for what it used to be. But if you had the wrong fee schedule attached to that plan, and you provided the patient with that estimate, patient may now actually owe double of what their initial estimate said. And you already know how that went, right? So scenario I recommend, we don't recommend going crazy on verification unless your practice model really requires it. And what I mean by crazy is like a two-page breakdown with 40 codes for every single patient before they step in to your door. But we don't also recommend following these two models, just as discussed previously. So like I said, I will share my verification checklist, or an SOP rather, at the end. But just to give you an idea, you should be identifying the following items to determine how this insurance verification task will be done in your office, to make sure it works for your office and works for you. So number 1, you do need to identify the verification timeline. And that means how much in advance will you verify? Well, we usually recommend about a week in advance, because there is that time to reach out to the patient and get new information if you need it, if they're terminated. You also need to outline insurance verification process. And what I mean by that is, are you pulling information from the website? Are you calling? Are you using technology? All of these things. So just identifying how it's going to be done in your office, and then having it written out, making sure your team following that. And then how are you entering this into your patient management software? Are you entering new plans? Are you checking for updates once yearly? Or you're just kind of going by what's in there already? And then the documentation. Are we doing the full breakdown form in addition to what we're entering? So just kind of have to decide, if you need that breakdown or if you can enter the plan details in a coverage book in the software, and that may be enough for you. And then how are you marking your appointments? Are you identifying appointments that have been verified so it can actually be easy to determine what has been added, like what appointments have been added to the schedule and are not still verified, so your team can go and then catch those verifications before the patient comes in? And then terminated insurance. Are we making some kind of pop-up or something that insurance has been terminated, or is the patient coming in, getting treatment done, and then we're getting a denial? So, you just have to have that written out. Are we texting the patient? Are we calling the patient? And then, what's our follow-up to make sure that nothing slides through the cracks? And then new patients with no insurance. Like, let's say you have a new patient with no insurance on the schedule. Are you contacting them via text, email, phone call, something, forms, reminder, to avoid them coming in with their insurance card? You want to get that information in advance so you can verify. And then lastly is the coordination of benefits. This is only for, if you practice in an area where you have heavy dual insurance, then you want to make sure that, primary and secondary is identified correctly and they're aware of each other. And if not, having the patient notified to call their insurance. So, these are the things you should really be identifying in your office to determine what the insurance verification process is going to look like. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about documentation requirements and how do you get paid from the first submission? Well, the simple answer is if your clinical team is not documenting, guess what? It's simple. Your admin team is actually not submitting the claim with required information, which then affects your cash flow because guess what? Insurance requests more information or, denies the claim for a lack of medical necessity. So sounds simple, right? But so many practices actually fail here. Why aren't we just documenting, right? It's simple. Well, maybe it's not as easy to get everyone on the same page, but I'm going to help you to get everyone on the same page. So here I have this documentation guide that, of course, I will share at the end, but you have some samples of what is needed for the procedures these days to get them actually paid. And this is like a worst case scenario cheat sheet. And I do update it every year if anything crazy comes out. Like crazy is what I mean. Like this year we had a payer who is now asking for start and end times for SRP, right? So it's on there. We have all of our clients update their clinical notes to include that item so it can be easily filled in. And then in addition, like anesthetic, that was another crazy thing, right? They want to know how much anesthetic and what anesthetic was used. And this is, of course, in addition to all the other things like staging and grading and how the procedure was performed. And hey, there's so many clinical notes that we're seeing that don't have the staging and grading, but that's old already. So if your practice does not have that, definitely take a look, review your clinical notes, make sure there is a line item to fill in that blank, to give that information to the payer to avoid that insurance request. Example, surgical extraction, very popular. If your clinical notes do not specify the technique that was used and that qualifies for a surgical extraction payment, your extraction will actually get downgraded to a simple. And you may be getting a lot of these downgrades, and you may not even know. Your team may be writing the difference because the EOB will say that the patient doesn't owe the difference, and you may not be aware of it. So it's definitely, take a look at your clinical note templates and include little line items for technique used. And then the qualifying factors for payment for the surgical extraction would be like bone removal, sectioning of the tooth. So I do hope you take advantage of this cheat sheet, and you will update your clinical note templates to include those line items for your claims to get paid from the first submission. And, an easy thing to do is also, because this guide does show not only what needs to be in a clinical notes, but also what you need, like in terms of x-rays, if you need a PA or you need an FMS. If you just print this out and then you can stick it to the inside doors of your cabinets, it will help your dental assistants to have like a cheat sheet. Okay, do I have an x-ray? If I don't, then I shouldn't be dismissing the patient probably, or, a specific x-ray for that procedure. So this really works great for our practices. And again, I will share that at the end, so don't fear, you will have it. So we're kind of, wrapping up in a little bit, but a couple of things I wanted to bring up that you need to watch very closely to not have your revenue go down the pipeline is rejections, right? You want to make sure you are checking your rejected claims every single day. You're fixing the issue, whatever it says, why it's rejected, and you're resubmitting. Another thing is aging report. You want to make sure you're running your aging report every 2 to 3 weeks. And then, of course, you're working your oldest and largest, and then also watching your 90 days, like I said before. And then insurance requests. Answer them as they come in, like by the end of the week. Most information can be submitted online, so you don't even have to pick up the phone. We do everything pretty much online these days. And then watch your EOBs. Just question everything. There are so many weird things going on, and sometimes plain unethical. You receive those weird EOBs telling you to write things off. Very popular with the buildup, right? We all know that some insurances will say that it's all inclusive to Crown, but they're usually looking for more information, but the verbiage doesn't say that. So a person who is new, they're going to take that, they're going to take that literally. They're not going to know that they need to submit something else. But if you are that person, basically the insurance is looking for either a prep and seat date to pay for that buildup, or some insurances are looking for proof that more than 50% tooth structure is missing. So if that was not in your clinical notes, or you did not have an intraoral photo to show that, you may receive that EOB that will say it's all inclusive. And then, going back to that surgical extraction downgrade to simple. So if your clinical notes do not state the steps that you have removed the bone or sectioned the tooth, it will downgrade. So that's also something to keep an eye on. Another thing is, that's pretty new, actually. I would say I've seen this for about a year now, but I don't really see people talking about this a lot. So I just wonder if, this is actually being written off in offices, post and core. And basically the denial says that based on history, procedure is not eligible. And right, we're all wondering what history, right? Well, the payer is looking for an endo report. So if your office did not submit a claim for the root canal, this specific payer wants the report from the specialist, which is kind of crazy, but that's what gets the claims paid. But you can see how this is wrong, right? The EOB says that the patient owes 0, and you should not believe that, because that's not true. And then another one is that has similar verbiage, and it also says that based on history, procedure is not eligible, is the abutment, the 6057. Basically, payer is looking for an implant report. And I won't specify the payer, but it's the same payer as with the post and core. But again, EOB says the patient owes 0. So we can see how this is wrong, right? I would say one thing to remember is that insurance language isn't always clear, and especially if you're new. What I mean by that is sometimes it is plain wrong and misleading. So if something says that patient balance is 0, but there is a charge billed amount for that procedure, it doesn't necessarily mean that. So you would have to look into this further. that would mean you have to take some action. All right, so, just remember, do your research, stay proactive, and always question everything. The insurance language isn't always clear. I do hope this was helpful. It's been 40 minutes. I can't believe this. But anyways, we will go ahead and answer all the questions. I know that Wendy will take over in a second and share a little bit about what she does. And she has a QR code there.
Perfect. Thank you. So I had learned many new things, and I literally laughed out loud. So I'm glad that I was on mute, but I literally laughed out loud when you said that there was a payer that is requesting the start and finish of scaling time. And it just it seems a little petty, you know? So if anybody has any questions, I've gotten a few of them messaged to me directly. So feel free to message them to me directly or put it in the chat. But as I mentioned in the beginning, I am the owner and founder of Career Elevation. We do dental specific recruiting with private practices. And typically we do a done for you hiring process, but we have a few other options as well. We do offer webinars and courses that you can purchase and do like self-paced, self-taught, or we do a one-on-one VIP day where we teach you everything in a day and then several hours of work between us as well within the first month. To help you basically be like a recruiter. We want to help as many dental offices as we possibly can because we know that the hiring process is not always that much fun. So feel free to check out our free gift, which is the pre-hire checklist. I'll put it in the chat in just a little bit. I have Julia's information for her next slide in the chat, so I will get that after that one is finished and set off. So this is my cell phone number down below. Feel free to text me anytime if you are in need of a new office or if you are in need of a new dental team member. Feel free to reach out at any point. I would love the opportunity to help, and I do help hire assistants, front office team members, virtual assistants when needed, associates, anybody within the dental community. I do help with that. So feel free to reach out if you would like.
Awesome. All right. So like I said, as a thank you for attending, I've put together a couple of free resources you can download on my website. An insurance verification checklist, the insurance coordinator guide, and then also the documentation guidelines for the claim submission to get your claims paid from first submission. So you can go ahead and scan this QR code over here and get your guide. And then Wendy, I believe, will also put in a link in the chat if you guys can scan the QR code. But if you would love to have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'd love to answer them and I'd love to connect. I do have my information available in the next slide. And just, as an ending, I guess, band-aids are easy, right? But prevention is powerful. So that's what I'm wishing you all. So whether it's embracing automation, maybe hiring a billing expert, or just simply investing some time into training and setting up systems for your practice, you'll thank yourself later. Yeah. And if we have any questions, go ahead.
Yes, those questions. Okay. How can we get our clinical team to document better so our claims don't get downgraded or denied?
Yes, that's a great question. All right. So I guess one approach I found really effective is helping your clinical team see this from the patient's perspective instead of just saying, we need better notes, so billing isn't a nightmare for us, right? So reframing it as your documentation helps ensure the patient gets the benefits that they are entitled to. I feel like that helps and tends to stick much more. And if that doesn't work, what I've done, and you may do the same, go to your clinical note templates and make space for those items. I've done that for my clients too. I couldn't get them to, include those line items that I need, the information. So I went in and I updated their clinical note templates. And guess what? That information started appearing because they were filling it in. So maybe that's your way of doing it and helping your practice.
Perfect. Another question was, why is my corrected claim getting rejected as a duplicate?
Yes. Okay. So that does happen a lot. I wonder if the person is submitting it and, did they specify how they're submitting it or did not specify that?
They did not specify. That was the question. That was it.
All right. So usually the duplicate claim, basically you need to make sure that you do include the initial claim number in the remarks section. So you have to say something like, this is a corrected claim. So you need to specify it is a corrected claim for claim number, blah, blah, blah. And then, you need to specify that you're asking them to reprocess with correct information. So write whatever was wrong on your initial claim, whether it's amount billed or if it's a wrong rendering provider, the CDT code used. And then I usually say, fax it or mail it. You fax it first, and then if you don't have a fax for that pair, mail it, because if you're sending it electronically, if it's just like a regular hygiene visit, those are auto processed. So it's just flagging it as a duplicate because line items match exactly the claim prior. So they may not necessarily open it and do a manual reprocessing. So just fax it or mail it.
Okay. And I love somebody's curious about AI because I love it as well. And I know you mentioned it a little bit in here. Do you know how AI has been integrated into dental insurance companies? I've heard that insurance companies only actually process 5% of the claims manually the first time. Is that right?
I don't know, maybe. Oh. I mean, there's definitely some AI processing, and there is definitely auto processing of simple claims that do not require no attachments, do not require manual review. A lot of payers are definitely saving times on those claims, but I don't think we have enough information. It feels like that sometimes, right? So I guess that's my answer.
And then this one was from me, because those are all the questions that I had gotten at this time, it looks like. Can you tell us the ways that you can help those that joined? Obviously, they have the free resources, but what services do you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a billing company, we offer the full revenue cycle management, and we submit your claims. We will post your payments that you receive from insurance companies, and then we will do all of the follow-ups. If it's rejected or it's over 30 days, we will work on those and we will send out all of the appeals for denials. We will answer all the insurance requests. And then we also do patient billing, which we will reach out to your patients with statements. And then if they don't call or they don't pay, we will also call them. And then insurance verification, we do that as well.
Beautiful. Okay. Lovely. Well, I'm excited to get people back. Maybe they can use the restroom before their patients come in if they're on their lunch hour right now or wherever they're at. So
yes, I read someone was eating lasagna. Oh, I got so hungry.
So thank you everyone for joining us. And if you saw in the chat or if you didn't, we will have a recording sent to you by email. And then we will also have links to Julia's free resources as well as my pre-hired checklist. In case you are in the hiring process, you'll have all of our information, mine and hers. So you can reach out to us if you are in need of help for either one of us. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and I'm super excited that Julia was able to help you guys all out today. Thanks, Julia.